Greetings and welcome back to another edition of Adult Conversations with Cynda, family, and friends, where today we'll be discussing Mlk'S dream, vision boards, and the ATF and ICE raids. And without further delay, let me introduce my beautiful host, Miss Cynda Williams.
Hi everybody. Welcome back.
Good
Wow,
morning.
we are in 2025, y'all.
Yeah.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Exciting, isn't it? Right?
Woo, woo, woo. Exciting. That's a good positive way to look at it.
I'll be facetious. Go ahead.
Everybody that joins in, welcome back and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy 2025. We're a blessing. We're still here. We're still kicking. We're still doing our thing. And, right before we started the show, I was like, we haven't been here since December. So in 2024. And I haven't seen you, James, since then. So
I've been in and around. I've been watching you all on Facebook and different things. So I try to stay in contact as much as I can. But I've been on the road a lot, working on the road and traveling and working.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. Well, we're gonna dive in. There's so much literally that has changed in our world since we were together last. Depending on your perspective, you're very excited or scared. So depending on your perspective. I'm honestly, though not excited about the turmoil that's happening and the changes that are happening. I'm not excited about that, but I'm excited about the change that I feel that's happening, the positive change. Yeah, it's not a year on mute. Oh, maybe she meant to be. I'm excited because I believe with honest, when folks are honest about who they are and showing everybody how they really feel, and it gives other people the open door to do the same, to say, hey, I'm a person that don't like other people, and I'm here to tell the world now. I think that's good because I rather know about it. Just like with the things that people are tripping about, the DEI, do it. Go on, tell us who you are, so I don't give you my money anymore. You know what I mean? And I choose not to work for you anymore. Who's going to work for you? If we stop working for you, since hiring us is not important to you anymore, in our neighborhoods, who's going to be working for you? Who's going to sell your goods? Who's going to keep you billionaires? So I'd rather know who they are. So come on, bring it. Let's all join in because I'd rather be in the know. And like a friend of mine said, it's like, I don't want to give you my money. I don't want to give you my time. I don't want to give you my energy if that's how you feel. Keep on. Thank you. Let's all know. Like, I sent to Sadaka and Monica. I don't know if you saw that one because I sent so many things, Sadaka. I was like, let's get a Costco card. Let's share a Costco card because Costco's vibing with loving all people and helping all people. So let's give them our money instead of some of these other places that we go. I'm like, shoot, I'd rather know the truth than not. What do you think, Sadi?
Yeah, I agree. I love authentic people. And I think, like you said, we're really in an interesting time. Either you're really scared or you're really excited. And I'm really excited, even though the world is I'm not excited because the world is collapsing. I'm excited because when towers fall, when structures fall apart, it gives us a chance to be something new. And, we can't move forward as long as we live in lies and illusions. And I think we've very much been living in lies and illusions for a long time. And people have been placated because they've been distracted with their jobs and trying to survive. And just entertainment and celebrities always talking about things that really don't matter versus focusing on what actually matters. Like, I feel like the truth is coming out massively about food. They just got rid of the red dye. They're poison. I don't have to be careful, but yeah, they're the P word when it comes to food in the United States. The water is contaminated. The groceries are high. Everything is high, and people are, like, I think one awesome thing that's happened is what happened with TikTok, and the collective consciousness has erupted massively. Red Note was trending #1 on the App Store. So the American people were like, we have collective power, and we've stood on that. And I think a lot of what's happening now from big tech is because the American people are like, this is what we're going to do. So we've shown that united and collectively we have so much power. And that is why TikTok, even though it's still pending, is still open and moving forward. So it is an exciting time because I think people are waking up to their power, and there definitely is a spiritual ascension happening. There is a mass wave awakening, within social media, but also this younger generation. And I do see people my age and older people starting to be like, oh, okay, but you really got to let go of the illusions. You got to let go of what's been fed to us in terms of the truth, and start getting to a place where you start making those decisions on your own, looking objectively, not loyal to any particular party, but really focusing on what is, like, what is true, what is authentic, what feels right, right? Because we're in a time where you don't know who to trust. You don't know who's right or who's doing what. It's all coming a million different directions. So I'm excited. Not to mention them coming out with the news, talking about, the Israeli chief came out and said, yeah, the aliens are real. Yeah, the Galactic Federation is real. Yes, they've been talking to Trump and your government. Yes, they are coming soon. They are coming soon to make contact. So that whole disclosure came out with the egg on News Nation and everything. So apparently the Galactic Federation is very real for all you Star Wars fans out here. And we're going to meet some blue people soon.
No, she has a point. Really quickly, I'm hoping to get good evening, red lipstick. Thank you for your blessings. May they be returned abundantly. She has a point. I'm not too far from NASA Goddard here, so I'm hoping to get one of the chief scientists, but there's a project going on, the Da Vinci, not the artist, but they're going to look to see if there's life form elsewhere. And I want to say it's Venus, but I'm going to do a video on that later. So, Saudi, you're actually right on point. So,
yeah, we're people that see because we've experienced. I mean, even today we have the lineup of, I think it's 7 planets are in a line today. That hasn't happened in our lifetimes. They said over 250 years or something like that. That has not happened. And so if you look outside and you have clear skies tonight, you can see 7 of our planets all lined up. And so that's some
I keep on saying in my mind, what a time to be alive. Like, it's like we have the front stage, and like, what I'm telling everyone is, yes, this is all scary what's happening, but you have to understand what's going on, which is the light is breaking through. God is breaking through. And when the light shines on the dark, what does the dark do? It scatters, and then they start attacking each other. So people just got to know to stay clear, to, try to be as prepared as possible, but to remain calm and focus on what really matters, and to try to stay out of it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, we literally could talk for 2 hours about all the shifts that are happening right now, but we'll stick with our themes because we got next month's show, and etc. We are going to start on talking about something that I've been doing personally for years. I mean, I haven't done it consistently every single year because I dream so big oftentimes that my dreams, like, it takes time for things to manifest. And sometimes things happen overnight and sometimes they don't. But one of my practices is vision boards. I really love to do vision boards. I know Doe does also. And I have other friends. I have a friend, a male friend, oddly, who's been doing some sort of vision board since childhood. He didn't know that's what it was, but he's an artist. And so he would sketch his dreams. He would, journal his dreams in visuals. He would, he's a photographer, so he would take pictures and all this kind of stuff, right? So vision boards, I mean, it's a very elementary way to manifest. But just in case there's anybody that's going to listen to this that's never heard of it, which I can't imagine, but you never know. The vision board is, you come up with, you can use magazines, although there aren't many these days, physical ones. You can use images off of line. You can use photographs. You can use words. You can use whatever you want to put on in a frame the dreams of your heart, your desires, what you want to see happen in your life. And the thought is, if you think about these things, you connect to these things, you put them in a visual format, and you hang it somewhere that you can see. And so it's something that you're bringing within your thought process and your psyche every time you see it. I have mine right in front of my bed. So the first thing that I see is that I'm looking all the time, as soon as I open my eyes to the brightness of the day, I am looking at my dreams of what I would like to manifest in this next few years. Like I said, my vision boards, I kind of go a little bit longer than a yearly thing because my dreams are so big. It takes some time to manifest the dreams that I have. So I don't have the expectation of, course, tomorrow this is going to happen. And then there are other ways. Like, for instance, I have this share. My friend of mine gave me this. This is a replica of an Oscar, of an Academy Award. And honestly, that wasn't even in my psyche. I wasn't even thinking that way. But he gave this to me, and he's like, you're going to win one of these someday, somehow, for something. And so I keep it on my desk. And when I'm writing, I'm looking at it because that's where I feel like it's going to come from. I don't know if it's going to be acting. I think it might be writing. I don't know. But it's not a board in a frame, but it's a visual representation of a dream. And that's what dream boards are. Or vision boards are. I'm sorry. This thing behind me. This is believe it or not, it was a shower curtain, but I loved it so much. I made it art, and in it is this beautiful woman who's so young and vivacious, and around her is all these elements that come from music, because I love music and I'm a singer, so blah blah blah. So anyway, that's what vision boards are. And a lot of people have testimony about them. And for me, I can go back. I have gone back and looked at old vision boards and had like a silent freak out, because almost everything that I have put on my board has come to be. I just forget about it because you keep living and you keep moving in life. But when you go back and look at old ones, if you don't want to keep the actual thing, if you're not a clutter person, you could take a picture of it. So you can go back and see from 5 years ago what your vision board had. So, Doe, you want to talk about it?
You're absolutely right. It's just putting that energy in the atmosphere. So I'm going to show mine really quick if you all don't mind. Give me one second, and you're absolutely right as far as testimonials. Now, it's not fancy, but so this is my vision. Health, peace, new location, believe, love, peace, career change, investments, expand social media platforms, and to learn a second language.
It can be as simple as you want it to be. It can be simple like that and using words, or it could be a little bit more extensive, like mine, if you can see it. I'm rich. Can you see that? And then have fun are my words, best friends. And then I have pictures of me and my sisters. I have my sisters and I under Home Sweet Home. I have the planet Earth, I mean the whole globe, and you see all the famous places that you can travel to. I want to do that. And there's a little plane that's flying around it. I want to do that. I have pictures of my daughter, joyful and smiling. I have pictures of a yoga person. I have the words enjoy life. I have comments about being loved and loving. There, I mean, it's kind of hard because of the glare, but I just do mine like a montage of things, or what's it called? A collage of things that I put together. And as I said, so like there, that's happy family. It's just I don't try to specify, like be really clear about what I want something to look like, because God's vision is bigger than mine. So I'm not really specific about how I have that happy family, right? It could be my immediate family, my extended family. So I use shadows so that I know what it represents, and so I can leave the house and the exact vision to God, you know. But the things like I know, like with your health, I have the same thing. I have pictures of fruits and vegetables, and because I'm moving towards a vegetarianism, and so you know, whatever it is you want to manifest, you can use words. You can use, some people do post-it notes on their mirrors. They just write all the things that are meaning, the affirmations of how they want to shift their life. It doesn't have to be limited to one thing, and it doesn't have to be a big production, or it can be a huge production. You can do a whole wall of it. You know, it just depends on what works for you, you know.
And you have to believe in it, because already the move has been done. Thank God. Hopefully another one. And the career change. As of February the 3rd, I'll be the new in-house investigator for. So things are looking up.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so amazing. And I'm not surprised, you
I'm
know,
working
because
hard. A lot of challenges, but don't let your challenges. I share with you all what I'm going through. No one else, but never give up.
never give up, because to give up means to die. You know what I mean? Because you got to keep on living. You just got to keep on living. And I'd rather be alive when I'm living, instead of just sitting in disbelief and
Existing.
yeah, existing. So James, do you have any versions of a vision board type of stuff that you do?
You know, I was goaded to do so. A few years back, a friend of mine, a young lady, she wanted me to do this because she was helping me with my dates and times and all that, calendars and everything. She said, you need to do a vision board. And we entertained the thought for a little while. But I come from old school, as you know. I have lived long, many, 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 many years, which means that I am not settled in the old school way, but I am uh, my life as it relates to the way I do things and the way I see things personally is relatively settled. No, I am not so settled that I cannot change because there is so much happening these days as it relates to how the world is transitioning. But it's for me as an individual, it's transitioning so fast and so beautiful and so wonderful and so tragic, and that my idea of a vision board would be it would change every day because I've been involved in so many things in so many different ways and more ways than I ever expressed. I'm beginning to now think in terms of possibly sharing those things, but I'm careful. I don't want to get out of step. But my vision board, I would possibly say that it's in my heart. It's in me, and I follow that desire and that hope for not for just for myself and family, but for mankind, as I am involved in that whole system of belief and style of loving people. So no, I don't have a board that I watch. I have a board that I'm careful about in my heart that I pay attention.
Well, I was going to say some people have such a phenomenal vision in their hearts. Some people have that. Some people can't even. I mean, there's actual condition where there are people that cannot see images except for what they're seeing out of their ocular vision.
Mhm.
They cannot close their eyes and see anything. And so they need this kind of prompting. But I mean, to be honest with you, James, I've been to your home, both of them, and your home is a vision board.
Yeah,
The whole thing is a vision board. You have so much art and beautiful things that are meaningful and have symbolism. You have pictures of people. You have even the way you dress to a point
hmm
is a vision because everything about you is so unique and you that you present your vision board to the world with who you are,
mm,
and that's a way to do it too if you have the ability to do it. Some people need help. Some people can't see like that within. They have to have a visual material representation of it on the outside in order to be able to bring it into their minds and into
true.
their hearts.
That's
You know
true.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So, I mean, I would never say that you don't have vision because your whole life has been about that. I mean, you're a dang on Aquarius birthday coming up. And you're that is the Aquarius way.
yeah,
Changing the world one step at a time in their quirky, wise ways and no nonsense ways. And so I would, because I know you, can say your life is a vision board.
okay, that
So
makes sense. Yeah, but thank you. Makes a lot of
Sadi, Sadika, I,
Yeah.
I I know we've talked about these things. Have you ever done anything like that?
I've never really gotten into the vision board, like just done it, but I think I do more journaling where I do it. I'm I do the 369 technique,
Me too.
um which is where I write, and then I also have different numbers that I use. So like, I don't know, can you see that? It's like, so
Hmm.
I draw while I'm doing my 369 technique. Um, I have certain phrases that I do in repetition, 3, 6, 9 throughout the day. And then as different thoughts and words come up, I put it, on there, and I also would do pictures that go along with it. So I do it. I just do it on a daily basis. Though I have to say I've been slacking because I switched more. I kind of lately have been focusing more on visualizing through meditation. So either in the morning and at night. So I do a lot of visualization through meditation and breathing exercises, more so today than I do more the journaling, although I think I'm going to get back to that as well.
Yeah, I'm a throw everything at the wall type of person. I do it all. Okay. I journal, I 369, I got the vision board, I think the vision board, I do visualizations. But one of the things that I've learned throughout the years from different teachers that rings true in my heart is I don't want to put limits on God's vision. So when I do my visualization exercises, I try not to be too specific because I know what I want, but I don't want to limit source. I don't want to limit God. So as soon as I visualize whatever, I let it go and say, you know, do me better. You know what I'm saying? But any way you do it, any way you can see, feel, taste, and touch, and all of those things yourself that's evolved from where you are right now. Because some teachers say that where you now are now is dead. It's already done. So the things that you see and the things that you visualize, however you do it, is tomorrow. That's what's coming. Now and later, right? Now and later's. It's you're creating it. What you are in this present moment is what you dreamed a year ago, or last night, or went 10 years ago. If you were consciously seeing, you're there now. So everything you're thinking today and visualizing today is for what's coming. And so be very conscious about what you put your focus on and what you think about and all of that, because if you get in sadness or whatever because you're in pain or you're not well or you don't like the way the world looks, and that's all you're focusing on, then you're creating that for tomorrow. You're creating that for your time to come. So be conscious of those thoughts, not ignore what's happening, but understanding that was created before. What we're seeing in our world right now was created collectively by a collective group of people before, and I don't think it's bad. I think it's evolution. Joe, you got any more thoughts about it? Anybody else before we move on?
I just was gonna say, the whole exercise, whether you do a vision board, journal, meditation, 369, is that you have to be in the energy of what you're bringing in. You have to, you cannot attract what you are not. And so, it's not, that, I want to win or I intend to win. It's thank you for winning the $46 million jackpot on 125/25. That's how you have to talk about it. Like you have to thank, or why did I win the jackpot for 46 million on 125/25? You have to, it's already happened, because time is the fourth dimension. Time, everything is happening all at once. And I was trying to explain it to my kids where if you can really imagine yourself as an energetic being, and if you think about time and you could decide a different version of you throughout multiple versions of you, multiple possibilities of you, and you say that's the version of myself that I want to be, and I'm going to attract that toward me. That's how you have to think about it, is I'm going to pull in that version of myself. So Cindy, from a higher level, like my manifestation is I am stepping into my highest timeline. I'm drawing in the timeline or the storyline of me where I'm a jackpot winner. And then you take aligned action to do it. You're acting as if you're already a millionaire. So, for example, some things that I've been doing, aside from just journaling, I'm opening a trust. I'm now learning how to invest my money. I'm learning how to save my money. I'm doing different things as if I am already a millionaire because I am. And that's what you have to do for anything. A lot of people stop at the vision, and they also stop with consistency and dedication to the vision. It takes repetition over and over and over again to bring it in. But the part they don't talk about is how hard it is to sustain it when you bring it in. So you gotta be ready to receive it.
Yeah, because there are parts of us that reject the new because we're comfortable with the old. So we reject the new and we'll sell. That's why you have so many millionaires that lose it all within a year, and their life goes down the tube because they have not become the abundance that they've won. So you can win the money, but if you don't know that you deserve it, and that is now the life that you live, one of an abundant one, you will sabotage yourself. And another thing I think people forget, especially when they're first learning these methods, is you're changing a habit. When you do the 3-6-9, which is, just in case you don't know, it's like saying, like for me, I do it for a month. I do one thing that I'm saying, for a month. I do it 3 times. I write it 3 times in the morning and say it in the morning. I write it 6 times in the afternoon, and then 9 times. And I'm saying it to myself. And what I have found is I have changed my mind about so many things. And it's not because I'm a great or I'm spiritual. It's because I've changed my neurology. Because the longer you repeat something and you start to believe it, because your brain reconnects, the synapses change, the neurology changes, and you start to believe it. So in the beginning, you feel like this is fake. I'm not rich. I don't know, whatever, or you can do a general statement, as Abraham says, like everything is working out for me, is very general. Because everything has worked out for you in the past because you're still here, right? So instead of being specific about a dollar amount or whatever, you're saying everything is working out for me. And eventually, the longer you do that, you really believe that. Now, because I've been saying certain things to myself to change my mind and my habit about how I believe about myself, when someone says, the ticket costs $35, my first thought is, oh, I wonder if I'm going to, I wonder if I'm going to have that. I don't really have any money. My thought is, okay, I got you. $35 it is. I'll hook it up, and to somebody that's like a penny, that's nothing. But to somebody else, that's gas for the week. So you have to change your mind. And what I found is the more you do it, the more your mind changes about it, the more God gets in step with you and says, okay, if that's what your faith is, if that's what you believe, I agree. And so if I'm saying everything's working out for me, everything absolutely does every time, So Sadika, you got any more thoughts about it before we moving on to the MLK and his dream?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So I think that's cool. Thank you guys for that conversation. That was fun. So James, I really hope you participate in this next part because you have a special perspective about this next part that we're going to move into. We'll spend up to the top of the hour and a little bit into at least 15, 20 minutes into the next hour about Martin Luther King dream. And even in the last week, my perceptions of that have shifted, because the question is, okay, we know what MLK's dream was. Do we think that we are living that dream? We are moving towards that dream? How far do we have to go, to get there? Will it be an ongoing process? So, James, you were actually a part of the movement, a very active part of the movement with Sadiq and I's father and your whole family, Papa, Reverend J.C. Williams, and Resume Williams. You were all very strong part of the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s and on. So first of all, from your perspective, what was it that MLK dreamed for us?
Well, that's a good point, in that I've lived long enough to begin to understand it from a different perspective. When he made the statement, of course, the infamous or the famous statement, "I have a dream," and did that whole scenario, we had a tendency to think in terms of it being relative to, and it was to a large degree, civil rights and the rights of human beings and racial inclusion and et cetera and so forth. All the things that we know that are viable and relative to even our lives today. I do agree with that, and it's a beautiful thing. I have since rehearsed it from a different perspective, because it's said that Martin Luther King said, "I," personal pronoun, "I have a dream. I have a dream." It was personal. It wasn't everyone's dream. It was his dream.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is to connect to his dream and make his dream our dream. And we certainly can do that, but I see it in a different way. I begin to see it in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to know how I felt personally as it relates to his dream, and how it's connected or how it's disconnected, and how, since I've lived so many years, how is it working now, and how it did not work in a lot of ways, and what can we do to even improve what his dream was. My dream is different, because I no longer live in that span of time. I no longer am fighting in the streets relative to civil rights. I'm no longer marching in Cicero as I did, nor am I in Washington, D.C. as your father, my brother, and I and others from Ball State University. We did that, and it was a joyous thing. It was a great thing. But it just set the standard for how we are to move in the future. But I've learned that the future is so different, and we have transitioned life, not us, but life transition. And I'm really learning about the transitioning of the world outside of our thinking, and being compliant to that thought as a possibility, because it may not be for everyone. But I'm thinking in terms of the dream being something else other than what it was said to be. And I am not putting down Martin Luther King, because I admire him and admire his life and his family and everything he did and how he changed the world. The question is, how is it presumptuous for me to say I would like to be a part of that changing the world relative to what I personally think and believe it should be today? Because this is the time that I'm living in today. I'm not living in back in the 60s. I know they were glorious days, and there's dangerous days, and we fought the power, and we did all the things, ran the streets, we We did all the things that were necessary to elevate what Martin Luther King wanted, and many, many, many other people, many other, even Jesse Jackson and Ralph Abernathy and all them. And then I look back on that time, and I even remember the time when my dad, Reverend J.C. Williams Sr., he was a social activist, civil rights worker, and a pastor, of course, as you know. He told us how he and Martin Luther King were roommates in Georgia. I think it was Georgia, because we lived in Atlanta, Georgia. Your uncle, my brother, Jacob Williams, he was born in Atlanta, Georgia. People kind of think that he was born like in Ohio, like the rest of us. It's not true. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia. So my dad's living equation took him all the way to Atlanta. And that spark of life still remains with me today because I know it's significant. It means something. But what it means, rather than for it to mean back then, I think it means something now as a transition, because we are in a transition. The transition is not us as it is life. I have seen life change many different colors, many different ways, which caused me to think in terms of, okay, how am I a part, as you all are indicating with the boards and et cetera and so forth, what place do I have relative to the dream and relative to what I think the dream means for us today? It's not the same. It's not the same because life has changed. Life, i.e. God, however you want to put it, doesn't ask us questions. And life often doesn't subscribe to our thinking because our thinking has changed over all this time. It's changed. It's different. We go through a span of life of negatives and positives and good and bad and right and wrong and health and bad health and et cetera and so forth, our children and everything. I have grandkids and I have great grandkids. Can you believe that? I have great grandchildren. I love it. I mean, it's so beautiful. So my thoughts on this whole I have a dream thing, yes, it was relative to then, but I seek to find out what's relative to now and how can I participate in the light of that dream enmeshed with the light of the dream of today and what's happening now.
So what is that? What is I know that's a big question, but
Yeah.
can you give us a short answer that summarize what your dream is today?
My dream is today is to, and I'm being very cautious and careful, and you have to be careful, is that I see how people have transitioned in their thinking. Education is transition. Scientific discovery is transition. Life is transition, which means that regardless of what happens, life is doing the transitioning. And what does it mean to me now is that I think it's imperative that those of you who are young, as you are, from my perspective, have to connect to that. Some of you have, some of you have not. Some of you don't even see the need to, but I know as a senior adult that it's not going to be the same as it was last year, 10 years from yesterday. It's not. It's going to be different. I want to be able to capture what's happening today. The question is what's happening today? We are in a metamorphosis, in my opinion, of belief, a metamorphosis in what's relative to us and our children, and how significant is our lineage relative to where we come from, who we are as individuals, and learning who we are as individual people and what place we have in this whole transitioning thing. We have a tendency to think that we can only do so much, or we only think in one linear way, just one way. It's not like that, I don't think. I think it's bigger than that. I think it's much bigger than that. We have a tendency also to believe that we don't have the capacity to think above and beyond even our own thoughts and emotions. I don't believe that, because the thoughts and emotion that comes to us from a transitional time, and I don't want to be too philosophical, I don't want to be too philosophical, is not ours. Life is not in our hands. We're participants in the transition. And we find our place in the whole mock-up of what that transition is. And there, I think, as some of you have experienced it, I think, there you will find your individual place. Man, the galaxies and the black hole and all these things that are being dropped on us that we don't understand. Well, we don't understand because we don't see our place in it. We don't see our place in spirituality. We don't see our place in the beauty of what life is now and what it wasn't years and years ago. And we want to bring the old into the new. I'm not going to do that. There is something else happening. A tidbit of irony is that I discovered in my travels and in my journey as a human being that a lot of what I experienced long ago is only significant to what is happening to me personally today. I would think that it's separated. Well, it happened back then and it's over. Now we're going to something new. Yes, it's new, but I think those are the nuggets. Those are the nuggets that it's like a salad. It's like a salad that is in the salad that may not get like horseradish. It's not horseradish because I don't like horseradish, but it was there in the salad that we never did partake of. And I'm thinking that there are things that we can connect ourselves to, but it's too big for our finite minds. It's too big for our minds, so we go lesser. And I think, ladies, that it is as big, not as you think, but it is as big as it is big, as it is big as we transition into something spectacular, beautiful, magnificent, even though their negative qualities are in it as well.
Yeah, I think that going along with that one of the things I've really come to understand personally is that you can't have a balanced world without the light and the dark. You gotta have both, and you gotta understand both, and you gotta accept both and see where that, like for instance, the Los Angeles fires.
Yeah.
That had personally affected my thoughts and everything due to my relationships with people there. It was my home for many years.
Yeah.
But if you think about, not to belittle what people are going to have to go through, but if you think about what a fire does, it destroys. But what comes from the destruction? New birth.
New birth, right?
New birth. So you cannot have growth without destruction. That's why I'm not afraid of the changes that are happening in the world, because I just believe it's a part of that fire. I think the fires in LA were like a metaphor for the fires of what's happening in our systems, in our, in our lives right now, because our lives are just but a part of something much, much, much more expansive that we can't comprehend. So the dream, as you said, the dream as Martin had it, um, was a good starting point, especially for people that Black people that came through this country, the foundational Black Americans. We needed a starting point to start having a dream beyond the shackles that we were used to, and not just the physical shackles, but the shackles that we were maintaining on our minds and in our hearts about the possibilities of who we are and what we could do in this world. And we are, while I believe in the, I've understood the melting pot theory. It's the salad bowl theory that's more the one that I lean into. We all have to be this great big tossed salad. And like you said, the horseradish might be in it, and you might not even experience it, but it's all there. It's all there, and it's all tossed in together. And it makes for a really good salad, right?
Exactly.
But it still takes all those separate parts to make it. They don't get lost. Their identities don't get lost. The carrot doesn't become the cucumber,
Right.
and the lettuce doesn't become the onion. It maintains its form, its uniqueness, but they all have to come together to make this nutritional wholeness, this meal that you can even add, certain kind of protein to. You can eat it with hummus on the side or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the dream is all encompassing. It's not, it's unique in its separateness, but yet it still all comes together to move us in a direction of evolution, this collective consciousness that I feel is beginning. What do you think, Doe?
I had a quick question for Mr. James and then you too. So did it begin individually and transitioned or morphed into a collective? Or was it thought to be a collective from the beginning?
Would you say that again for me, please?
Did his dream, begin as an individual thought, or was it meant to be collectively?
That to define it, in my opinion, and that's a good question.
Thank you,
To
sir.
define it, it would be out of our hands. We tend to think that the word, as an example, to be or not to be, that is a question. Whether it's 'tis noble or the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Well, that is what Shakespeare, as it was then, relative to life, as he was seeing it, as Shakespeare wrote it, which is beautiful. However, those of us who are a few years after Shakespeare wrote that, we see it from a different perspective based upon things that are happening in our lives personally. It doesn't mean that we deny the word. It means that we build upon the word and see how we fit into it. I just want to say this as it relates to health, and I'm trying to be very careful because I have a tendency to go far and beyond what I'm supposed to. Because I have a big mouth sometimes. I'm sorry. But health and wellness is a principal part of what we are going through today. And it's always bigger than what we have a mind to understand. As I read and as I learn and as I contemplate and dream, I'm discovering that it's above and beyond my particular finite thinking. And the answer, if there is an answer, if there is a stationary answer, may not be what we think, may not be what we believe it should be or would be. It is something transitional and something else relative to these are the times we are living. When I heard about being careful, when I heard about different things that are happening to a person physically, and I wonder, okay, the first thing you do as a quote unquote Christian, okay, where's God? Is he going to allow this? Are you going to disallow this? Is it supposed to be this way? Is it supposed to be that way? Those questions I can't answer. I tend to believe there is something else. There's something else. There's something more positive to what we are dealing with than what we believe, or even the illness. I had a friend whose mother was dying. And this friend lived in another country presently. Her mother lived in another country. And I won't go into detail. However, I got the news and we all was just discombobulated, and I'm trying to make it relative to your question. And it was really bad, really sad, because this person is thousands of miles away from mom and dad, and mom is passing, and the people there didn't know what to do, how to handle the situation, what medication, et cetera, and so forth. All those kind of right living things you got to do. But the end was, well, it doesn't look very good. And so I heard that, but I disbelieved it. I didn't believe it. It doesn't make me any better than a doctor. It doesn't make me any better than anybody or anything. But I didn't believe it. And I quote unquote pray about it. I don't mean I didn't get on my knees and start screaming or anything like that. I researched it. And I saw something. I saw the illness. And after I saw the illness, I knew what was going on with this quote unquote cancer that was terrorizing her body. And I made the phone call, international phone call, to say it's not what you think it is. But here's what it is. And because I was able to visually see the discrepancy in the body, I saw it. I was able to speak to it to the extent that the doctors had the opportunity to research in another direction. Upon doing that, they discovered that it was not what they had thought it was. And I gave them, not me, it wasn't my great knowledge. I gave them an opportunity to look in another area of health and was able to satisfy the discrepancy. And she today is swimming, and she's 80 something years old. She's swimming every day and loving it and living life as life has said she would. But at the time, she was in egregious, dastardly, painful painful ways of thinking. And that is to only say that things has transitioned in these days, ladies, that we don't know. We just have our thinking and good wishes and prayers and all that, but we don't know. But there is something within you that may be used in order to help not only that person, but many people. And we cannot continue to deny it. Did I say too much? I'm sorry. Smack me.
No, I get what you're saying. I want to comment. First of all, the question though was his dream personal and become collective? I think that we can't ever know. He could have very well just been talking about himself. This is really what my dream is. This is what my dream is. And a whole bunch of people took it as their own dream. They took it as their own dream. So it became a collective dream because it gave them a direction to dream. Because maybe they were too overwhelmed with the thought that nothing could ever change.
Right.
But this gave them a foundation to build upon. But as to James's point, we have moved so far beyond those basic foundational places because a part of our bigger selves now is coming to our attention. We are able to do far more than just hope and dream.
Mm-hmm.
We are now recognizing our ability to create and sometimes our ability to see beyond what we think we can see. It's sci-fi to some people. But as James was speaking, he was able and was given information in his thoughts, in his heart, not with his brain, but with his spirit to help someone else. And lots of people are going through those kind of changes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't understand what's going on, especially people that are ready for it, because I don't think everybody is ready to embrace that kind of bigness. I think there are some people that are comfortable where they are in their journey, and that's with their feet planted on the ground. And if they were given the same information that James was given, they may not have taken it seriously. They may have said, "Oh, somebody's going to think I'm crazy if I say anything about that."
Right.
So now our dreams have exploded within the universe. It's no longer just the basic put one foot in front of the other. Now we can fly. The dream is way bigger than we can imagine. We can do way more than we think. That's why I'm not afraid of any of the things that are happening, because I know now with information, I can be a part of the shift. I can be a part of taking the manacles off of our minds and thoughts, and because I know that, like, for instance, I don't want to get too esoteric, but since James opened up and was honest, I'll be a little, and I know Sadiqa's had some experience with this. I think our family had these gifts. Sometimes that I believe I'm used,
Mm-hmm.
and this has been my whole life. My whole life, I will say things to groups, or I'll say things to a specific person, and I know it's not me. I'm not saying that. I didn't think that. I didn't know that. I don't know where the words are coming from, but they are not coming from me.
Right.
So that's why I'm not afraid of all of this, because it's been natural for me to do. I didn't even know what it was called, and I won't even give it a name here. I'm not gonna to label anything, but I know that the bigger part has used me and uses me all the time. I never take credit for it because I know I didn't know that. I have a friend right now that I'm dealing with who is in the momentum towards transitioning out of this plane. And he calls me all the time because he's terrified. And I am telling him, I'm connecting with him on a spirit level that I don't understand why I'm saying what I'm saying to him, because I'm not saying it. It's being said through me. And I think this, you can call it spiritual if you want. You can even call it sci-fi if you want. You can call it whatever you want to. People are opening up to these gifts that we have that are so much bigger than, holding hands with the white girl walking down the street.
Right.
They're way bigger. And if you allow the transition, if you can stay in the knowledge that this is natural and normal, the transition that we're making, you can be a part of the shift and the dream that's coming.
I agree.
So I have a quick question. Cynda, you said that we're able to dream more so now than ever before. Yeah, and I'm not disputing that, but why does it seem like some people are stuck in the grid of complacency?
I'll give a little short answer, but I want Sadaka to answer that. I think that everybody's where they are. If you teach a kindergarten class like I have, there are different levels of learning. You have your little Einsteins that are reading books and hanging out and teaching the teacher, and then you have your children that are still in Pampers that still speak with baby talk. There are different levels of understanding. There are different places on a journey. It doesn't mean that baby that's still in a diaper is less than the baby that's reading a book. It just means they're in different places in their journey for their growth.
Right.
And a person where they are is not stuck. They're just learning at their own pace. Everybody has their own pace of learning. Even the people we totally disagree with, don't like what they're doing, they're at their own place, their own journey. They're not wrong. They're not right. They're just where they are. And we're all on our own pace. And we're exactly where we need to be for our own individual journeys. But ultimately, collectively, all of us are connected. And we all at a bigger place and a bigger level are all just letting these things move to the new age of Aquarius, or whatever you want to call it. All of us in the bigger sense. When I went through this thing right quick, when I 11 years ago, almost now, I went through this thing where I was seeing, I was like one foot on the earth and the other foot floating away. And I could see people at their biggest higher self, say. And they were talking to me and I was having conversations with that version of them. But the person I was with could only see a person speaking gibberish to me, because they were supposedly mentally ill or whatever. But I could see them at a different level than this person could see them. They could only see the earthbound part. I think more and more of us are able to see the bigger part. And that means the dream is unstoppable. There is no end to it. There is no, you can't do this, you can't do that. That's impossible. Nothing is impossible. That's where we're moving. Sadaka, what do you think?
Well, I feel like you said a lot already on it, but I guess I would say that there are some people who, like Cindy said, they're at different points in their journey, but some people are carrying from past lifetimes a lot of trauma. to this life. And if people could really get the concept that we are energetic beings, we are electrical, and that everything is energy, and that we are consciousness, there is consciousness, and then there is plasma, which pretty much shapes and projects anything that we have internally, externally. And, I think it's not only people that are born with their past kind of trauma from past lives that they still need to reconcile, but also all the generational curses that are in their bloodline that they're born into. They come into this world, and immediately, it's all this programming, that's kind of getting shoved down down their throat about what they should be and who they should be. And society tells you, and pretty much this earth, this world teaches you that you don't have any power. They teach you that you've got to look for all the answers outside of yourself, which is the exact opposite of what it should be, which is that everything that you need is inside of yourself, and that you are the one that's going to have to save yourself. And I feel like a lot of people, not even talking about younger people, older, like when your mind becomes an adult, a lot of people get stuck because to really, really save themselves and face themselves and be honest with themselves is too hard. Like, they rather take the blue pill rather than the red pill, like in the Matrix. It is too hard for them, because it's hard when you really are honest with yourself and you aspire to live as a conscious divine being with morality and truthfulness, and in terms of not being selfish, and truly trying to live sustainably in your community and not gossip and talk about people and not project your own insecurities into everyone, and to really check yourself when you're out of line. That takes discipline, and it takes discipline on a daily basis. So a lot of people don't want to do that work. I see it all the time, like where there are people who are drowning and they are getting help, and that help is proving that it's authentic, and they rather still drown than to do the work to pull themselves out of what they created. I think people have a hard time accepting that everything that's happening in their lives, a lot of it is because of situations that they've created. And I'm not saying, like this whole thing with Trump and everyone else and everything happening in the world, that is a big conscious collective like reflection of what is happening with humanity, which is it's not working. This story isn't working. And so now it is up to the American people to collectively decide and choose that is not a story we want anymore, that we don't want to honor people, certain people like that are a certain way, or we don't want to treat each other a certain way anymore. We have to decide to be different. We have to decide to choose how we're going to be. But all of this, again, if you truly decide to live your life not on autopilot, not by going with what people tell you should do, like the way that the schools are structured, they just tell them what to do. They don't encourage them to be creative or inspired or to be innovative. They put them on autopilot and tell them what to do. But if you live your life intentionally and with purpose and to create, that is taking accountability that you are controlling your life. And that means anything that you do is going to be as a result of a decision that you're making. And you have to deal with that. It doesn't mean that you beat yourself up over it, but it does mean that you're truthful enough with yourself regarding that so that you can then level up. This is all a game. It really is, y'all. Like, we are in a game. And I'm like, how ambitious do y'all want to be? Do you want to take the blue pill and sit down and live in your dysfunction to never really become or achieve what you want or get into the state of abundance that you want? Or do you want to level up to live your life the way that you want to live? So you got to put in the work. You got to go through it to get to whatever it is you want. And a lot of people might not be ready for that. And they might not be ready to, it takes bravery. That is one thing I learned. It takes bravery to stand up for yourself. It takes bravery to stand in your sovereignty. It takes bravery to be different than the world, because the world will start turning on you, and then the people close to you definitely will start challenging you. And if you can think of it as the universe testing whether or not you're really committed to changing, then that'll give you a different perspective on it. So I know it's a long answer, but that's my thoughts on it. Is like, and then there's a whole nother layer when you talk about all the dark influences that prey on people's shadows. You got alcohol, you got all these drugs and addiction that keep people in a state of disillusionment. They're in illusions, right? And so if we are a drugged out nation, there are so many people who casually are over dependent on a lot of different substances right now.
And those substances include things beyond just the obvious. Social media is
that's true.
That, you know,
Over the counter.
Entertainment, you know, sports. We are addicted to this. I didn't even realize how addicted certain people are to games that they're playing. They rather live in this, and these are grown people, like in their 40s, that the majority of what they do is pretend to be someone else in a game. It's so hard to live in their own lives that they put themselves in the lives of these characters in these games. And so that is an addictive substance. That's a substance. You know, all of those things. You can be addicted to anything that you overdo, you know, to distract you from life. There's so many available distractions. In eating, you can eat, you know, I literally have been this way and have talked to people that are this way, where every conversation is, what's the next meal going to be? Where am I going to eat today? You know, am I going to eat at this place? I'm not going to mention any names, but am I going to eat at this fast food place, or I'm going to go to that fine dining place, and I'm going to, and it's just the addiction to distractions is what it is more than anything, because alcohol, drugs, even good plant medicine, entertainment, even spirituality, the tarot, all of these things can become distractions if you're pulled out of facing your own life. If you're pulled out of facing your own needs, your children's needs, your community's needs.
Talking about other people can be a distraction too, because there are a lot of people who talk about everybody else's life and refuse to deal with themselves.
Exactly. It's all set up to distract us from getting into the dream that James is talking about.
And I'd like to add the church. There's some people are addicted to church.
Yeah, because it's a social place. You know what I'm saying? You can be addicted to anything if you're distracted from life. I knew someone that, you know, the sacred books are all wonderful. What they were reading a sacred book constantly, and their children weren't being fed. You know what I'm saying? Because they were so into that was feeding something in them. It was distracting them from the problems of their lives. So anything can be used to distract you from dealing with yourself, with your shadow, which you need to get to know and embrace and accept. And it's so that that shadow can be in harmony with your light. And so you're whole.
And also because there's so much actual darkness here, right? You know, we talk about duality and polarity. There are certain energies that are very dark, and they are very removed from what I call source, which is God. They are very removed from God, and they are very intelligent. And I know, like, we were talking about highly evolved beings that are sitting outside our galaxy, and they are, y'all, like, for real. There are other things that are very dark that prey on our shadows. And we could do a whole like show on that, but there
Yeah.
are. And if people understood that sometimes when you have thoughts that come in your head and feelings that happen to you, they might not be your own. And there are certain dark entities that spiritually do exist that feed on causing that, and on anger and fear, and in people fighting. It's like, as time goes on, and I believe it'll happen in my lifetime, I think the truth is going to come forward about all the different beings that are in the same space with us that are on a different frequency. And they're not all good. And matter of fact, a lot that have been here on this earth have been very bad. So that's another block for people too. If you allow yourself to be low frequency, and you allow yourself to be in a state of lack and a state of fear, especially if you're like, in any of the addictions that we just talked about, you really are leaving yourself vulnerable to that kind of dark energy highly influencing you and
But
keeping you trapped.
but I think the thing is to know that, understand that, and it empowers you if you know that, because they have to have permission. You have to invite that in. They cannot override your free will. Free will is universal law, and you have to invite it in.
Yeah.
But how people are tricked is they believe it's their own thoughts.
Yes.
And they're tricked into believing I'm unworthy. I'm unworthy. I'm nothing.
It's
I'm not.
self-doubt. Self-doubt,
It's
self-doubt is the way they get in.
so you invite these influences into your life, and you get in sync with them and in agreement with them. But the good news is you don't have to stay in agreement. You can literally in the moment say, oh, no, 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 no. Like, I used to have night terrors. I wake up in the middle of the night and thinking the worst possible thoughts about what's coming, what's going to happen. I would wake up terrified. And once I really came to understand the truth in what Sadhguru was talking about, then I knew that it's not me. So I don't get them anymore, because what I do is when I get a thought that isn't my own and I shouldn't, why am I thinking this? I don't even recognize it. Nothing happened to cause me to think this. Then I say, who are you? And what do you need? Because you're not me. This is not my thought. This is not how I feel. And why don't you take yourself into the light? How can I help you go there? It stops. It just cuts everything short. And maybe you help a shadow that's been in shadow for a long time, and maybe you don't, but they leave you alone. We are not in position that we cannot disinvite unwelcome guests into our spirit. We're very, very powerful. So if you start having thoughts that don't even sound like you, don't even make sense, it's probably not you. It's just something getting in agreement with you to bring you down.
Yeah, and I want to circle back, because I know we started off talking about MLK's dream. I just wanted to say I think it's ironic that all this stuff got unclassified regarding MLK, really putting his character in question. I haven't had a chance to read these documents yet, but I think the timing of it is ironic, and I really do think it is to get people to not believe in that dream when it's very important for us to still and believe in MLK's dream. And I think to what you said, Cindy, about MLK's dream is like we were dreaming with him, but now we're running because we realize that as children of God, we have all the power as conscious beings. And it's not just limited to this earth or our race or our color. It's actually about our spirit. And it's intergalactic, apparently, which is on a whole another level. I just wonder what MLK would be saying. And like, I honestly cried when people were rallying around the TikTok ban. People like didn't understand why so many people were emotional about it. But it's because people of all colors and ages came together and were nice to each other, and all the divisive things that were discussed were dropped. And then when we all went to Red Note, the Chinese people were so nice and embraced us, and the American people were so nice and embracing them. And then we all came together and said, hey, you're not like what the oligarchs have been telling us you're not this way. And everyone started realizing that it isn't us, people against people. It's us against these systems of oppression that have been put into place for thousands of years, and that they want us to not be united and to love each other so that they can control us for a very, very small, minute percentage of the world. This is a worldwide issue. And so what ended up happening with Red Note going to #1 is that Chinese government was put on notice and the US government was put on notice that if the people wake up to the power that they are unstoppable. And I think if MLK has seen that moment, he would have been proud.
And quick thing, Dasadi just said real quickly, you're absolutely right. Excuse me. I've seen a lot and heard a lot of negative things. Timing is key. If you do a quick study when you have time, listen to what Stokely Carmichael said about MLK. He gave him his flowers and also added where he thinks that he may have erred, but he didn't try to diminish his work at all, like it appears that some people are trying to do now. So I just wanted to Stokely Carmichael. He did a lot of work at University of Georgia.
The key to me is Greg Braden. If you've heard of him, Daddy was a huge. He devoured his works, and I read a lot that he's read. And his statement is what I believe is true. Division, divide, divide, divide. Stoking the divisions within us. Color against color, race against race, religion against religion, gender against gender, straights against gays, blah, 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 because that divided we fall, divided we fall, divided we fall. And so, and helplessness and hopelessness is also, so, someone sent me a thing today talking about some of the negative things that are coming about some of our current heroes, and tarnishing their images. And that is very consciously done. We are all human. We have all erred. We have all done things that we weren't proud of. But certain people we put on a pedestal when they don't belong on a pedestal. They are still human beings that make mistakes and do things that they might not be proud of. But that does not change the good that they've done. That does not change how they have moved us, how they have changed us, and how they have been a part of a transition towards evolving. And so we have to remember, like Sadaka said, like DoeEyes said, the timing. Isn't it odd, sarcasm meant, that all this stuff is coming out now? No, because they're losing. Okay, because the dream that James is talking about is imminent. It's coming. That you can't stop it. They've already lost. Even those negative things that have run so much for so long, that have shaped a lot of our institutions, they've already lost the war. So they're just fighting with their last little meager breaths of air. And they're doing it hardcore because, whenever something is being disowned, it fights for its life. But it's too late. It's already done. We're already moving in that direction. So there is the only way to move forward, in my opinion, for those that are ready to move forward and expand, is to recognize if something doesn't feel right in your spirit, if it just doesn't feel right, it's not. And just keep it moving. Don't sit in it. If it doesn't feel right, if it makes you feel bad, if it makes you feel fear, if it makes you feel any of those things, it's not. It's not the direction of where you want your thoughts to go. And we are so blessed to have those emotions that show us, okay, if I'm feeling anger right now, if I'm feeling fear right now, that is not the direction to keep me high. That is not the direction. It's not, you should recognize that. Why am I feeling that? But if it's an outside source that's giving you these feelings, that lets you know that that outside source is not valuable. It is not something that you need to be paying attention to, because it's trying to move you down the scale of vibration. It's trying to bring your heart down, because that's where we're moving to. We're moving out of using our minds to forward us to letting our hearts forward us.
Yeah.
Our hearts are leading now.
Mm-hmm.
And because our hearts are leading now, people don't understand that the heart has a brain. It's the brain is the brain, and it's awesome. But that heart has an intelligence. The stomach has an intelligence, and those things talk to me all the time. And I think they talk to other people all the time. So we have been given the gift of emotion, an emotional scale. And if something is making us feel these ways, that's not the direction we want that to go. So we go, okay, thank you for letting me know. That's not a source I need to listen to, letting it go. We only have like 20 some minutes left, but I think it leads us, and Sadika kind of opened this up, it leads us into this last little section of conversation, and that's about what's happening with some of the new executive orders, and there's so many. There were countless orders made. If they're honestly things that can be moved forward or not, it's the gesture of it. But one of the things we wanted to discuss a little bit was the immigrant thing that's happening, as if all of us, well, not us, our family from Grandma Williams' side, we are from here. We're Aboriginals, but we're all, to a certain point, immigrants. There wasn't anybody here for quite a long time, but Africans made their way over, and blah blah blah, whatever. So the whole thing about getting rid of the immigrants is quite hilarious. But getting rid of the immigrant criminals, that's the route that they're taking. If you look at the stats, if you look at the ones that have committed the most atrocious crimes against Americans, it's always been the same type of person, and they were not from another country. Okay, they looked quite like the men that are trying to lead us now. In all honesty, those people that killed large groups of people, they were not from any other brown nation. They were from here. Those immigrants. So wanted to talk a little bit about that. I honestly do not live in the news. I'm very cautious about what information I absorb. But I've heard, I read the headlines and stuff. Um, Not getting rid of immigrant criminals. It's illegal immigrants. Why is she changing the definition? Not getting rid of immigrant criminals. It's illegal immigrants. Well, it's not she, first of all. I'm not changing anything. Like I said, I don't know a whole lot about any of this stuff because I won't absorb the information. But Sadika, can you explain can you answer that question? And
Well, I really wish that it was just illegal immigrants that we're talking about, because he did an executive order to remove people, that have been born in the US from migrant parents, in terms of their naturalization. So it's not just illegal immigrants, and there has been a whole narrative around how they're targeting migrants that have committed criminal acts, is what I would say. And I just think that this is a slippery slope that we go down, because we have to realize a lot of these migrants are coming from Venezuela, where the US has very much been tampering with their way of living and leadership, and influencing takeovers, and allowing certain people to come in power that made changes that crashed their economy, that led to violence, that made them flee in droves. Okay. And so I think this is where it comes down to, where is our humanity? Like, people need to stop saying it's happening over there, so it can't happen to me, because the way I'm seeing it right now, Black people are up next after these migrants, with all the rollback on DEI and everything else happening. And I am of a firm belief, if we don't stand for each other, then we are signaling to the powers that were, I call them were because they already lost. We're signaling to the powers that were that they can do anything and get away with it. And I think, and by the way, I'm independent. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I work for God and I stand for the people. So I call BS when I call BS. And what's concerning, I don't agree with the last administration and how they didn't have any protection on our borders. I will say that. But the way we did our own citizens in Hurricane Helene in North Carolina should alarm everyone. How we left them, how we did not help. We have people sleeping in tents until recently, and to me, that's a U.S. act against their own people. So I think we should really be concerned about is, how is our government moving, period, against migrants, against Black people. They're not going to move forward with police reform now. What does that tell us, Black folk? So does it mean that law enforcement, you can get away with unaliving us with no consequences? I think that it's a slippery slope that we're down. And like, when you start talking about mass raids, and they tried to go in schools, I heard yesterday, they're going into people's place of employment and yanking them out. They're trying to go in schools.
Wow.
And take the kids out. And I worry so much about these migrant children, because they are people. They are people, even if they fled here, even if they're here illegally. Could we imagine with what's happening in our country, if it keeps on getting bad and we have to flee and we try to go to another country and they treat us like how we treat them? People have to understand it could happen to us too. And how would we want to be treated? And all those kids that disappeared before, that they can't find, and now we're talking about taking kids out of school to deport them. I just The whole thing is a mess. The whole thing is a mess. It shouldn't have, like, how we've even got to this point, it shouldn't even been allowed to get to this point. But now that it's happening, like, I just really think, like, people are so quick to say illegal, immigrants. And so that means that gives us freedom to do anything to them. And that's the signal I get. That's the bad signal I get. So we get to take their kids away from them and them never see their kids again. We get to put them in camps in inhumane conditions. Like, I just really think that people should wake up and understand that this is about our humanity and our compassion and our morality. That is what is in question. If we don't stand right now and hold this administration accountable and not let them roll and just bully and just do whatever they want, we're going to have some big problems. Big problems.
I do want to see this too. The reason why I mentioned the criminal immigrants is because that's what a lot of people in power are saying. That is their argument. That is why they are getting rid of illegal immigrants, people that aren't supposed to be here, because of the ones that are criminals. That is why I was saying that. They're taking this whole group of people that escaped here, maybe some illegally, which you got to fix, and the few that have done criminal acts is the reason why they're treating them as if they're expendable.
Right.
And I just have to pause because I am an advocate for I am an advocate for returning residents for people with who have convictions and arrests. Like, this nation has a long history of criminalizing anything that they want to oppress, especially people. We criminalize and stigmatize people because we want to oppress them, because it gives us the legal authorization to detain them and to treat them less than human. That is the history of our nation. And so I do know, I've heard of the isolated acts. We all heard about what happened to that poor woman on the train, that there's no telling that gentleman had psychosis. He was drunk. I don't know. We know about the jogger, the woman that was running. I hear about these isolated incidents, but that does not give us a carte blanche to go after all those people, treating them like criminals, because they're not. I know, I've seen these people. I've seen them in the community. They're regular people like us who are just trying to make a living, who are trying to survive given very, very, very hard realities that they're facing. And so I just, I know what the banter is. I know what the narrative is. But I think we have to be careful. If a person has committed a crime and has harmed people or property or whatever else, I am a firm advocate of the law, and they should serve their time. They should get the punishment. But once they've served that time, they are rehabilitated and they should be given a redemption, because that is what, what's the point of the criminal legal system then? Is it to punish them indefinitely? And a lot of people I've said is, okay, well, deport them so that they're not here. The problem is, we don't know what's happened with people when they're getting detained. That's the problem I've been seeing. It's like, what's happening to people when they get detained? Does anybody know? Especially to their children. I think
Mel asked, isn't coming to a country illegally a criminal act?
Well, I mean, I think that is a criminal act, but I guess the way that they're saying it's criminal, they're saying they're out here raping and killing kids. So that's quite different to me in terms of public sentiment and how we're going to address them. I just said, I don't think that we should have had open borders. I will never understand why this last administration had our borders wide open, and then these Republican governors put
droves of people on buses to the poorest cities in the United States where people were already resource strapped. I don't understand it. I do not understand why the last administration did that. It caused a major mess for cities that were already buckling from a lot of people that are already homeless and already marginalized and struggling to live. So yes, it is illegal that they came in, but the US sure didn't try to stop them. It seemed like they were inviting them in. So I just throw that back to you. What about the US? Like, why did they do that?
Well,
what do you think, James?
I submit to not knowing and understanding all the intricacies relative to this whole situation, and I lean heavily with Sadika because she is right there in the battlefront. However, I do believe that I do sense that what our ideas are relative to this whole situation is atrocious. I think it's atrocious, and it is unforgettable. And we as a people, we're going to suffer because of what this country is doing to human beings and to children in particular. That's my thought.
Yeah, I don't know, DoeEyes, if you're willing to let Mel come in and give his perspective. We're getting close to our time, and I know everybody has stuff to do, but if you think it's cool, Mel, we'll have you back, sir. You can be a guest on our show, and maybe we can do a recap part, or maybe you can join us on other conversations. We'd love to have your perspective. We're not afraid of it. We're just running low on time. But thank you so much for participating. We need that. We appreciate your thoughts and your perception. That's the only way we can come to terms or make some changes, if we actually communicate. So thank you so much for your participation in our conversation. I'm going to say,
wrap up,
I don't want to wrap up quite yet. I want to say one thing. I teach at a school that's primarily Hispanic. I'm there almost every day.
Really?
Yes. So I am witnessing firsthand fear on steroids. I have a lot of Venezuelan students. I have a lot of Mexican students.
Wow.
And they're walking around in complete fear because of what's going on. Because many of them just arrived last year. So I don't know what the answer is. I am just not an expert at any of this, but I do love people. And I do know that the ways that we go about dealing with this situation,
exactly, that is what I was going to say,
is important. How we do it, because these are human beings. They might even be technically criminals for having come here without documentation, without doing the proper means, but they are still human beings. So how we deal with it is important. That's from my perspective as a human being dealing with children that I see and speak to every day. I know their names and they know mine, and they respect me like most of our kids don't. And they are afraid. So that's got to be a part of the conversation. Sadika, I'm sorry. Go on. What you were going to say?
Well, that's all I was going to say the exact same thing. It's about how we move forward, rather than doing mass raids with big guns, violent, like disorganized. Like it's how do we do this moving forward? And like, honestly, what is our policy moving forward? And what is the US's international policy going to be moving forward? Are we going to keep on disrupting other nations, underhandedly, and waging wars by funding them buying weapons and
all that other stuff, and then destabilize regions and then wonder why people flock here. Like I think we need to really, if we're saying that our borders are going to be tight and controlled, then I think we also need to consider our international policy as well, and how our actions, co-opt or otherwise, in other nations destabilize those regions for people who are trying to make a living there too.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, I think it's time that we say thank you, everyone that's participated in this conversation by like us, James, Sadaka, DoeEyes, myself, and also to those that have given their opinions. And Mel, please join us on one of our shows. We would welcome you with open arms, and anyone else that listens to the recording of this. These are all important topics that we've got to communicate. That's the communication is the first step towards change. So before we say goodbye, I'll start with myself since I'm talking. You can check me out on all the platforms at Cynda Will. Usually is my way. I do my little inspirational things on YouTube, on all of them. So you can check me out at Cynda Williams or at Cynda Will, or just type in my name and you'll find me. Sadaka, how can people find you?
You just have to look up the Most High's Baby Girl, exactly how it appears on the screen right there. I'm on TikTok and YouTube, so please go ahead and check me out.
All right, James.
Yeah, Numa, Numa Incorporated. It's a not-for-profit. You can find me on Facebook.
All right. So I'm guessing we're going to come back here and do this again at the end of next month. And who the world knows? We got changes, like James said, every second of every
Hopefully the Galactic Federation goes ahead and shows up in the mothership. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm like, y'all take it too long.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, it's getting crazy. I need you to do something.
Mothership.
Right, yeah. So who knows? We might have we'll come up with our topics for next month, but they might shift just like they did.
I had one, but
time.
You're right. It might.
Mm-hmm. So DoeEyes, you can take us out and tell everybody what they need to know to support you more. And I think you should take us out. This is Joe Baby.
Okay, everyone, thank you for another awesome conversation with Adult Conversations with Cynda, family, and friends. You all can reach me here. You see the $sign down there, so you can support this broadcast, so I can support the people who support me. And always feel free to leave your messages and any comments you may have. Thank you again, Cynda, Ms. Sada, and Mr. James, again for another wonderful conversation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Hey, Will.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.
You too. So, thank you, Zena, again, for your blessings. Red lipstick vibes for your blessings. Gaming vibes for your blessings. All the members for your memberships, and everyone who contributes to this platform to bring you conversations like this and others. So again, Mel, you can email me if you're interested in being a guest, and anyone else. Enjoy the remainder of your Saturday. Thank you, and bye-bye for now.